So this is going to be a similar theme that's talked about in various videos or pointed towards in various videos, and it's something I get told a lot by people, especially loved ones, who will tell me, "Well, that's very judgmental," or "You're very judgmental." And what I'm trying to express to them is that, while it's possible, it is possible that what I'm saying is an actual judgment. I don't believe it is quite that way. I believe it's an expression that's not necessarily giving in a value of this or that, but a possibility. The irony, I would say, is that the labeling of me as judgmental is itself a judgment. And so it becomes a very almost hypocritical thing to say, well, you're judgmental. And I almost say back, but what does that make you? Like, if you're calling me judgment, that's a judgment on your part that you've made me judgmental. Now, if they said, that might be judgmental, well, now they're no longer actually fully making a judgment because they themselves haven't given it a definitive value. So it's like, oh, I'm not sure. Is that a judgment? It sounds to me like it may be, but it's not a judgment. That is a question. It's a possibility. It's close to a judgment. It is not actually a judgment. So similar, when I'm saying something and it's heard as a judgment, well, I would agree that it's heard by the person as a judgment. That doesn't mean that it is a judgment. It means it's being received in that sort of way. But if the intention is being, as I've talked in other videos, of pointing towards or a possibility towards, but not necessarily an acceptance as that, then it's not actually a judgment. It might seem like that, and it might again be perceived like that, because if someone is hearing a non-absolute as an absolute, sounds very judgmental. But if someone, myself in this case, is expressing a non-absolute and it's being heard as a non-absolute, well, then it can't actually be a judgment. I don't believe it. Maybe it could, but I don't believe it could be a judgment because it's not being expressed as absolute. It's being expressed as possibility. And so these minor little details, I think these are what so many of these videos are important for, is starting to understand slight differences, both in how we take ourselves to be, how we take others to be, but also how we have been educated to perceive the world as, perceive things as. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're just echoing back what we were taught, which doesn't mean it's what is. And so we play this sort of game where we all are echoing back what we think things are, even though they're slightly different, instead of actually questioning back and saying, well, why is that? The reason why is just that we have mostly been told it's that way. Doesn't mean it is, it doesn't mean it isn't. When we start to get more of a critical mind, critical has a negative connotation, but critical just really means, can we look at and take things apart, at least in terms of critical thinking. If we start to have a bit of a critical thinking and maybe a bit of a deconstructionist, which is to say, okay, well, I see that you're saying this, why might that be? Then we can start to shift what we're actually understanding. Instead of just absorbing information and taking it to be true because we trust the people that share it, which is fine within itself, we have a different relation to it. And now we can also then start to see, well, is this actually judgmental, or is this what I have been told judgmental is because of these various phenomena that have been shared with me? I'm not saying I'm not judgmental. Hell, I'm very judgmental in various ways as I continue to try to be less judgmental. Or I should say I believe I'm judgmental in various ways as I continue on that process. That does not mean that I am judgmental. It also doesn't mean I'm not judgmental. And same can be said for you. What I'm trying to do is to find these rich places that are in between so-called judgment and non-judgmental. But in between this, because that is actually where everything exists, or I believe everything exists, is in those spaces between. And the more we can start to play into that, which partly involves communication, oh, you're saying that, no, I'm saying that, okay, back and forth, and partly involves experimentation and other things. As we play within this, the field gets so much more richer, and our relation with this world around us gets so much more richer. But it's a process of somewhat unlearning and then rebuilding up from there. Or maybe there's no building, it's just an unlearning and being with. Words are going to fail us to some extent. So in the meantime, I hope this provides some value. I hope that there is an unlearning of some sort. I hope there's a little bit of discomfort, because the discomfort is going to lead generally to a shift, as I believe all growth comes out of shifts, which is a hitting a place where something, hitting a barrier, which is uncomfortable at first, but then as it expands open, we go beyond the barrier. So keep unlearning, keep finding places of discomfort to grow. Keep watching if you want. Be well out there. Peace.